just want to give a few reminders and make sure if you've seen the program that you make sure you pay a visit with Rick. There's a shot of Siesta Key rum with that, along with a seat on a toilet. So if you know Rick, you know how important a quality toilet seat was. So make sure you spend that time together. Also, there are balloons outside that you'll see with a voice recorder, and the intent of that is everybody, if you have a quick story or something you want to share, please memorize that by recording that. That's very important. And also out in the back there is a lot of memorabilia from Rick's career exploits, different businesses, different things he's done. So please go take a look at that. But I think we'd like to get started, and I'd like to welcome those that aren't here. We're live streaming, I believe, on YouTube. So those that couldn't make it in town, including friends and family in Brazil and those in Italy, there's people worldwide joining us. So that just goes to show Rick's reach was quite vast there. So. All right. Well, I think we get started. Kevin Brainard is going to deliver the eulogy, so I'd like to welcome him up here.
Thank you, Savi. Like and subscribe. I didn't know we were on YouTube. All right, so I'm Kevin Brainard. I've worked with Rick since 2001. It's Labor Day 2001 was the day I started. The way I got the job, I graduated college. I had my first real job, and the boss was an asshole. And very similar to Rick, that I can only bite my tongue for so long. And so I felt inclined to tell my boss that he was an asshole. I wasn't working there much longer. At the same time, my friend's grandma, Carol Hickel, was Rick's accountant, and so they needed an IT guy, and somehow that came to me, and I got to talk to Rick. I remember exactly where I was. I was on my cordless phone, standing out in front of my house. Rick was in Arizona. He had just bought his biplane earlier, and he was out there getting training on doing acrobatics in the biplane, because that just makes a ton of sense. It made a lot of sense to him. And my interview consisted of, do you know anything about cable modems? I said, yeah, I got one. It's like, yeah, all right, this sounds good. Yeah, just go into the office, and I'll let them know that you're starting soon. And you know what? That's kind of like how Rick handled things. I mean, most of what Rick did was very like handshake type deal. He wasn't a guy that's like, we need to put this in writing. If Rick told you he was going to do something, he would do it. I mean, that's totally who he was. So that's my connection to Rick, and obviously throughout the years we've had almost 20 years working together. Rick could never just be a boss. He was a friend. He was a father figure to a lot of us, Savi, other younger guys that kind of came in there. He meant a lot to all of us. It was, the joke at senior TV was like, nobody ever quits. There was two things there. No one ever quits, and nobody can get fired. overdose at work. Hope you can come back tomorrow. So it was always nobody ever retired from senior TV. We have John Nelson sitting over here. I mean, this guy can't say no to leaving senior TV. We had our entire warehouse had decades working there, and it wasn't because, I mean, John didn't need the money. John, if you do, speak up. We'll get a GoFundMe. Okay, so John's good on money, but you know, people worked there because it was attractive to work for Rick, and you know, I'm grateful that I had enough jobs prior to working for Rick that I got to appreciate what kind of boss he was, and a friend, and so many other things to all of us. It wasn't. It would have been. I would have been spoiled if that was my first job, because I would have taken for granted how nice he was. That would have been the expectation. And then you'd walk away from that and you'd come to find out that Rick was the exception. I've gotten to know a lot of people throughout the years doing what I do. A lot of people that are executive directors at retirement communities, nursing homes. I've still never captured even half of Rick in anybody. I think he was that unique. So in August, Pam had put together, and his daughters, Amy, Allie, a surprise retirement party for Rick, and it was a roast, and so we got to make fun of Rick, which was great, because you know, Rick spent a lot of his days using his employees as fodder, and you know, everybody's like, I can't wait for the Christmas party. Well, if you've been at senior TV long enough, you knew that the Christmas party meant that you had to make an ass out of yourself to entertain the crowd. So it was good that we got to be there and say what we needed to say in front of Rick sitting behind us teasing him, you know, poking fun at the things that made Rick. So I'll always be grateful that happened this year, this recently, because I felt like a lot of people got to say what they needed to say. With that being said, you know, Rick and I talked about that multiple times after that. He was surprised, which was very hard to pull off with him. And two, he would always say to me, he's like, oh my God, you were so funny. I loved it. And he said to me, and it's the weirdest thing, but I told Pam this, and this is why I'm here doing this eulogy, is that Rick said to me, probably 3 weeks before he passed, he said, if I ever die, I want you to do my eulogy. And, you know, it was said, you know, it was said in a way where we didn't anticipate this quite so soon. I remember I said, I can't wait. And then I kind of caught myself and I was like, well, I mean, like, I'll wait like 30 years or so. But, I feel like I need to be here to tell all of you about Rick. And I know all of you have so many different relationships with him. Rick was a man of the people. My God, I mean, like, I'm skipping around here, but he, you know, I talked to Pam and I said, you know, the best conversations I ever had with Rick was when him and I were on an airplane flying somewhere, because that was the only time somebody couldn't call him on his cell phone. I guarantee everybody in here has his cell phone number. I mean, he might as well have put that on the side of his car, and by God, he'll answer it. It doesn't matter who you are in his life. If you had his number, he's ready to talk to you. Did it matter what was going on? Are we in the conference room having a meeting? Yes, but I'm going to take this real quick. Hey, I can't get into the gate at airspace. Oh, yeah. I'm in a conference. Yeah, hold on. Hey guys, just give me 2 minutes. So he always found a way for everybody, always. And it was very rare to call him and not hear him pick up, but when he didn't pick up, I just assumed he was in the air, because every other time he picks up, and if he was actually busy and couldn't answer his phone, he would let you know that he's busy right now, but at 1:30, he'll be available. We'll talk then. And so the way that he made himself available for everybody, I think, all of us kind of felt that love. Like, I think we all felt like we were in the inner circle with Rick, because he always took all of our calls. I mean, there's a reason that this room is packed and people are standing in the back. It's Rick had that draw. Obviously, I did a fair bit of research after Rick passed. I wanted to learn about flying. And throughout my research, and it's my expert opinion that I'm going to say this, fuck small planes. I honestly, I never knew a better pilot than Rick, a more diligent pilot than Rick, and, here we are. I'm standing up here because it just shows you things are out of your control. So, with that being said, I have a ton of Southwest points. I know some of you are pilots. You probably got here through Airspace Place. I will help you get to where you need to go, so you don't have to fly something that unreliable. So, everybody is always like, working for Senior TV. They knew I traveled. But my travel with Rick, it was always special. The deal with Rick was anywhere you'd go, it wasn't, if I'm traveling somewhere for work without Rick, I check in at the hotel. Ooh, that restaurant's right next to the hotel. I'm going to go there and eat, and then I'm going to come back to the room. I'm going to watch TV, and I'm going to fall asleep. Same trip with Rick. We check in. Hey, do you guys have any brochures? Gather 15 to 20 brochures, page through all of them, and then the next thing you know, we're going skydiving. We're going indoor skydiving. I just wanted dinner and to put my feet up, and he would feel the need to go skydiving. So I just wanted to name some of the places that I got to travel to with Rick, because, it's funny, as I travel now, every place I'm visiting, I've already visited. And the time I visited it, it was with Rick. And my memories in almost every city are with Rick. So, we all have our own struggles, and this is my struggle, and I know this is other people's struggles, but I just want to name some of these places. Breckenridge, Colorado, Denver, Colorado, Golden, Colorado, Atlanta, Georgia, Boston, Salt Lake City, Tampa, Orlando, Sarasota, Miami, Fort Myers, Las Vegas, New York City, Los Angeles, San Francisco, San Diego, Chicago, Milwaukee, Quebec City, Washington, D.C., Dallas, Austin, San Antonio, Hilton Head for Savi's wedding, Nashville, Memphis, New Orleans, Philadelphia. So these are just cities like literally off the top of my head that most of these, I visited them for the first time with Rick. Again, this was work. This is me. This is the life that I had to live. It was awful. Things we did in these cities, airboat rides. We drove on the beach. Have you ever driven on the beach? I had never driven on the beach. Rick decides, well, yeah, let's rent a car when we get there, and I know the spot where we get on the beach, we can drive on the beach. So we drove on the beach in Florida. It was pretty fucking cool. I'm grateful for that experience. Indoor skydiving, musicals. Had I ever seen a musical before? No. Does Rick love Jersey Boys? Yes. We went and saw Jersey Boys in Vegas. Comedians, some good, some bad, but all of them Rick picked. Improv comedy. When we were in Chicago, we went to the Improv and we saw improv comedy. We went bowling. This is where Rick got the nickname BCB. If you want to know what that acronym stands for, you're going to have to get Savi, myself, or Ryan Kane a lot of drinks. Segway tours. We did that in Washington, D.C. We did that in San Francisco. Chris George may or may not. It's teed up every time. I don't know. The guy drove into a car on a Segway. But Rick, being the concerned person that he was, rather than checking on Chris's condition, got out his phone to take pictures of the accident. That still lives on. Washington, D.C., similar experience. Rick decided to bring somebody because Rick, being the guy that he is Linus in this room? Good. Linus, I don't even know if you've seen Batman, like the one with the penguin with Danny DeVito. This is it was a very similar shape. He had very small legs, very big up top. He was not Segway material. He dumped it at the Washington Monument, which we all got a good laugh out of. However, he was able to ride it back. And we were 10 feet away from parking these things forever. And he decided to put that thing down one more time. And that's when the knee went. And Linus was there to find a job at Leading Age. Linus ended up sleeping in Rick's room for 3 straight days, drinking a bottle of scotch, and while Rick recorded him snoring and sending us videos. We went snowmobiling. I don't know if anybody's ever been on a company trip to Breckenridge, Colorado, to rent snowmobiles to ride in the Rockies with any employee that wanted to go. That was a thing that Rick did for us. I remember exactly how much I paid. It was $0. And we had an unreal experience. Savi and I were laughing about this earlier. We were in really deep snow, 10,000 feet up. Our snowmobiles are sinking. It was an unreal time, something that none of us would have done on our own. I don't even think we had the means to do it on our own, much less the adventure side that Rick had to want to do that. Rick and I went skiing. We found a way to stop in Salt Lake City before we had to go to a trade show in Las Vegas, and somehow we ended up at Park City for business. The deal with Rick, and I don't think anybody from the IRS is here, but we determined that when we visit a hotel, as long as we ask to see the hotel manager and ask them what they did for TV service, that we were trying to sell something. This was a business meeting. We can now expense this. So Rick and I skied Park City, and we asked the hotel manager, "Are you happy with your TV service?" "Yes." "Okay. What was your name?" "Thank you." We did sleigh rides. Pam will remember this. One of the times we visited Breckenridge, we decided to go on a sleigh ride. And it's pretty cold out there, and I tend to warm up with whiskey. I turned Rick onto that. He decided that whiskey and Dr. Pepper was like the next best thing. And we were jollier than anybody else on that sleigh ride. We did an NHL hockey game. We did whitewater rafting in West Virginia. If you wanted to race cars, Rick was available to take you. We did nightclubs. We did Savi's bachelor party. Savi's bachelor party. Nah, I'm not going to go into all the details. But we were in Las Vegas. Savi's about to get married. We're working. Are we? It's time for his bachelor party. Yeah, so I don't know how Chris made that disappear, but that was an expensive night. Got to see TV show filming. So Rick was big into, if you were in New York or LA and they're gonna record Jay Leno, yeah, we got to get tickets. We got to get tickets. So you'd go and see that. We gambled at casinos. Every time we were in Vegas, Rick would say, "Are you going to gamble?" I'd say, "I don't know." He'd be like, "Here's $100. Just go gamble." So I'd gamble. We spent time in hot tubs together. We had foot massages together. Again, this was work. We were at a trade show all day. Do your feet hurt? My feet hurt. Do your feet hurt? Yeah, they kind of hurt. All right, I got us. Next thing you know, I think is there 4 or 5 of us? We were in Boston, and I mean, I literally think we were in the upstairs of somebody's house getting our feet rubbed. And of course, I mean, there's a million pictures of it, but it was super awkward, and Savi and I were talking about it. All of us were getting our feet rubbed, and Savi was getting his head rubbed. It just didn't make a lot of sense. We so question it. We all had women, and Savi, yeah, this guy, I think they just wanted an extra $40, and they woke up somebody, and he rubbed Savi's hair. We did Chinatown. Rick, my God, this guy, I don't know if he was, it's hard to say that he was cultured, but he liked culture. So the Chinatown stuff, that every major city we were in that had like a Chinatown area, we were always there. San Francisco comes to mind, Boston. I'm trying to remember some of the other cities where we ended up in Chinatown. I mean, Rick liked kind of all kinds of food. He had no qualms trying anything, or at least going to a place and making someone else try everything. Savi ate duck tongue, I believe. If you ever want to ask somebody about our Washington, D.C. trip, looking for Ethiopian food, I think Gary, I know Gary's here, I think he 3 mile walk, Gary quit 2 times during that walk. Gary was pretty hungry, and he was calling bullshit on that walk. Rick and I, and this was Rick's idea, but I thought it was a great one. He wanted to sleep in an ice hotel. And that's why him and I went to Quebec City, and we went to the ice hotel. The entire hotel is made of ice. And so, Rick did his research, and he anticipated, this is what it's going to be like, this is what we're going to do. We needed clothing to stay warm. So we decided, let's pick out like some long johns on REI's website, and that way we'll be able to sleep. I mean, these beds are made of ice. Literally the entire place is made of ice. So we get that. and we get the boys' long johns, and we get the girls' long johns. And Rick decides, I'm going to do something to the girls' long johns. So Julie Duncan, seamstress extraordinaire, Rick gave her these long johns and had the crotch removed in the women's long johns. So, I'm sorry, Julie, you have a talent. I don't know, maybe somebody else out here is seeking this talent. All right, well, get that stuff on Etsy. So, we have to get changed. It's like it's the part of the night there. We've drank in the ice bar. We've ate at the ice restaurant. We've sat in hot tubs. You're supposed to warm up your body temperature. Go into this room, take off your swimsuit, put on your thermals, and then you have like this North Face sleeping bag. So Rick and I are in the men's room, and there's a wall dividing the women's from the men's. And so we're sitting there putting them on, and we're just waiting for them to realize that there's a pretty massive hole in the front of it. And we sit there, and we start to hear the giggling, and Rick and I died. I mean, we were, Rick loved himself a good laugh, and it didn't matter how much time or money it took to elicit that laugh. He was all in, all the time. We're thinking about, I'm racking my mind, I'm thinking about these things that he did to make us laugh. And, I think about his cone of silence that he had in his office. And, the attraction to it, I don't know necessarily was that Rick wanted it as much as Rick wanted to hit the button so it come down so he could see your face. And, when he's redesigning the building that we're working in, you have no idea the amount of attention that went into the cone of silence. It's like big details. It was like, yeah, whatever. We need a really silent garage door opener to bring this thing down. I need to have certain lights above. Can we get the drop ceiling to go up like this? That way it's a little bit hidden. I need it to fit here. So it was always, Rick loved to make people laugh. I'm sure he made everybody here laugh. So, in knowing Rick, one of the things that he was really good at, Rick was a problem solver. And it didn't matter what you brought to him. He either had the answer or he knew somebody that had the answer. And the way that he always knew somebody that had the answer is because of all of you, because all of you were in his inner circle, and you knew if you called Rick, he would answer for you. And so when he called you with a question or a favor, you always answered for him. And, obviously that benefited him, but that benefited people like me too, because Rick was my go-to guy. That was my guy that I would ask questions to, that I felt like I could share anything with. And I know that he's called on a lot of you on my behalf, probably unbeknownst to you, but the way he kept friendships and maintained them, it benefited not just him, but all of us here, probably indirectly. Almost all of you know each other. And, you can't talk about Rick without talking about his generosity. When we did his roast, I made a joke because, we had an employee that literally didn't have a place to live. And so Rick bought a camper. And when I say a camper, I mean this thing was like 20-some feet. to park it behind our building, so the guy had a place to live. I remember him talking to me saying, man, we should buy a house right by the office, and then these people who are struggling with rent could all live there, and they could all be roommates, and we'll just cover it. I mean, it was this type of thinking. When Rick would present himself at a trade show to you, people would say, who are you? What do you do? I'm the head janitor. Like, he'd say that straight-faced 1,000 times. Like, he wasn't friends with anybody because of status, position, what they could do for him. He didn't really care. I mean, he was just a friend because he genuinely enjoyed your company and who you were and your status in life. That never meant anything to him. And he was always a guy that was willing to help. We did have people in our office that had drug addictions. You know what he did? Did he fire them? Fuck no. Let's put them through rehab. Rick would do that, so I don't even want to say to a detriment because, I'm grateful that he had that kind of compassion, and, thankfully most people didn't take advantage of that, but he was always that guy that would go the extra mile for anybody. And I think all of you know that. We'll talk about this later, but has anybody stayed at Seashell Condos? I mean, the guy, he bought those condos as an investment, right? Like, they're supposed to return rental income. And, I mean, Tom knows he got screwed on this deal. Yes. There you go, Lori. And we got Lori over here. She maintains an Excel spreadsheet that's just friends that are staying there. And it wasn't like, God, I got to get into Rick's inner circle because I really want to stay at Seashell. I mean, talk to him for a good hour. There's a chance he might offer it to you. And he did this with everything. Pam and I were talking. It was just like, he blew me away. Like, last month, he wanted to buy something for Seashell, and I said, you should reach out to this guy. This is the guy that we haven't spoken to in 10 years. Rick reaches out to him, and oh, by the way, hey, if you're ever in Sarasota, come by. You can go on a boat ride. That was the generosity of him. Just, it literally, it knew no ends. Part of the struggle, in dealing with this, I know I talked to Amy and Allie, and it's like we didn't get to say goodbye. This was obviously very unexpected and super unexpected. So I think that's what makes it tough. I'm going to sit here and I'm going to be grateful that Rick was the photographer that he was. This guy was obsessed with pictures, like obsessed. He's obsessed with video. So I've had people pass and I've craved their voice. Like, I just want to hear their voice. I just want to see him again. Rick left us millions. I mean, these aren't even understatements. Millions of pictures and video of himself. Rick was not shy, everybody. Most of you have probably seen Rick's ass. Okay, yeah. Who hasn't, right? I mean, my God. This guy would be thriving with an OnlyFans account. The last thing I want to touch on is that Rick was so proud of you, Amy, Allie. While obviously I've known Amy and Allie for a long time at this point, but I knew everything about them. And I'm sure a lot of you did, because everything you guys did, your dad would talk about your success. And not even just your success, it was like, Amy moved, she got this house. And it was like, I got to see 30 pictures of the house. I got to see the live edge sink in your bathroom that was done. Like, I've watched your remodeling take place. It was, Allie's doing this at Case, Allie's over here at Google, but she thinks she wants to do this. It was just, your dad was so proud of you girls and what you've become, the choices you've made, how hard you've worked, just the life choices. I mean, literally, there's no exaggeration. I heard everything about you guys. Everything. Just most I can say. But it was like the places you were living. I got to hear about your roommates. Like Amy, I met, is it Alyssa that you lived with? I met her on the elevator. I'm like, hey, Alyssa. I'm like, I actually remember your townhome because I saw 100 pictures of it. Like, so I just want, you girls to know and everybody to know that, Rick's legacy is his daughters. It's all of us. If there's anything we can take away from our time with Rick, it's knowing that this guy lived life to the fullest. A lot of people probably look at it and they're like, God, if he would have retired sooner, he could have enjoyed life. And it's like, bullshit. Rick was living life, living life hard, and to the point where trips with Rick, I would rest before I went on trips with Rick, because this guy's like a Red Bull commercial. He was ready to do everything, and I don't know. I did so many trips with Rick to Vegas, and it was like, damn, can we chill, Rick? Meet you down here in 10 minutes. So I think, if we can all take away something from Rick, it was generosity, his love of life, his sense of humor. God, what an amazing person that we all got to spend time with. We need to be so thankful for. I know, I actually got to see Rick do a eulogy, but I know that all of you here, he would have done anything for, anything. I never presented anything to him I'd never heard him resist something that I would ask. And so, I got to be his business partner, his friend, his employee for 20 years. I think I disagreed with him 2 times in 20 years. And those disagreements lasted 20 minutes. It's, Rick could get excited. We saw it, but, I told everybody, I'm like, give the guy an hour, he won't even remember what he was excited about. And I love him. I love what he was to me. He taught me a lot, how to be a good father, how to build relationships, maintain relationships, how to grow a business. It's shocking, but to grow a business, I don't even know if the idea has to be great. But you know what you have to be great at? You have to be great with people. And Rick, Rick had a lot of businesses and a couple failures in there, but most weren't. And that's because he was just a guy you want to do business with. And I see it today. You know, the people that I want to work with are people that I can relate to and talk to. And it's weird, but it's like nobody with senior TV was really a customer. It's like everybody was a friend. You know, we would do leading age, and people would come to us. We'd be hugging people. Like half of leading age was us hugging people. Like, does that sound like business? Like that? But that's, you know, that's kind of his legacy. That's the business that we were, and that's how we grew. And I think, you know, there's a lot to be learned from what he did. And like I said, I'm grateful that I got to shadow him for 20 years and probably witness, you know, the greatest businessman, father, friend that I'll ever meet or know. So I just want to wrap up with just saying one more time, I appreciate all of you here. Most of you I've seen or met at some point, but the fact that you showed up shows me that you love Rick, and if you love Rick, then I love you. Thank you. Now I want to introduce any one of the Briggs brothers to come up and speak. There's 3 gorgeous men that share Rick's DNA.
Well, my name's Don, and of course I was Rick's favorite brother. And it's been a very surreal 2 weeks, 2.5 weeks for all of us. And we miss Rick, but you know, we still have stories. This one's kind of short, and it's about, I think I can tell, it's like 1977. And I think Rick was at Kent still, and I was living in Cincinnati. So he drives south, and we're going to do an overnight kayak trip. I think it was on the Kentucky or Red River, I can't remember. But I'd been on the river once before, no big deal. So we're paddling down, and I think we got out for some reason, maybe to check out a campsite. And of course, I'm playing around in an eddy, stupidly not wearing a PFD, and I flipped the boat. So let the boat go. I think I remember hanging onto the paddle, but I'm really struggling. And I think it was autumn, so we're wearing some clothes, you know, it's getting heavy, and I'm really trying to kick to shore. I'm thinking like, you know, I could really drown my ass right here. So eventually, you know, I get close to shore, and so this is where you come in. While I'm struggling and trying to do this, Rick is on the shore doing what? There you go. We made it out of there, obviously. So that's all.
Hi, I'm Tim, Rick's favorite brother. I wrote mine down. I'm a shadow at company parties, I suppose. You know, introverts like me have sometimes a tough time with public speaking, but how do I get through it? No, you're not all naked. At least not all of you. I can pretend I'm Rick. That's how I get through it. So I just have 3 points to make. 3. Number 1, our mom would be really surprised to hear that I actually had 3 dads. No offense, Tommy. I could call Rick anytime. He would answer the phone, as you've heard. I know that he would be able to pick me up if a car broke down, a bicycle broke down somewhere. I know that he would be there. I could ask him if he knew a plumber or an electrician. So, oh yeah, but I wouldn't use that guy. B. B. Yeah. Okay. A lot of people have stories about Rick. Why? Because he was important to everybody. Everybody was important to him. And he would make you feel that you were important to him. 3, I've lived with hand-me-downs from Rick my entire life. Mom knows that. A few weeks ago, he even dropped off another shirt. It had apparently shrunk, and he called me skinny. The shirts I have on were his. I have many of his shirts, wisdom, much more. Before Stellar, he trained me selling golf balls at trade shows, shampoo at flea markets, and giving away hole-in-one prizes. If you would ask me to park cars for the old-time flea market again at 5 in the morning, of course I would do it. So thanks for listening, and now you can put your clothes back on.
Hi, I'm Tom. I'm the youngest brother, and I actually am the favorite brother. I'm also known as the spoiled one, or sometimes, according to my parents, the accident. Some people say that I look alike Rick, I sound alike Rick. It might be true, but actually Diane reminded me this morning of a story when Rick and I both lived in the Akron area. We used to love this restaurant called Peking Tokyo. It's now over on State Road, known as Golden Dragon. There you go. All right, you've all eaten there. So the funny thing is, we used to both go there separately with our dates, and over quite a few years, actually, we got to know the servers pretty well, and they would look at us like, with this funny face. And Diane reminded me that once we went into the restaurant together when the server finally recognized that we were actually brothers and not the same guy dating 2 different women. So she was glad that we weren't using their restaurant as a dating mechanism for, married guys. You might say, why am I wearing this ridiculous jacket with a shirt? Because I was here a couple of years ago and we were going to do a motorcycle ride, so I decided to spend a couple of extra days. We went to Macy's. I bought some dress clothes so I could actually go into the office, and we both saw this jacket. And we both have this jacket. And we both wore this jacket out at night, that very same night, together. And the server there said, okay, I get it. You guys aren't twins, but which one's younger? He was so proud that night. Like, are you kidding me? This is great. So, yeah. We all know that Rick was busy, busy, busy. He probably was the inspiration for the Ever-Ready marketing department's depiction of the Energizer Bunny. There's no doubt about it. But what you probably didn't know was that Rick was actually quite a movie buff. It was the one time where he would sit for an hour and a half, 2 hours, maybe 2.5, that would be stretching it, to actually watch a movie. So I thought I'd share with you some of his favorite movies and some of his favorite scenes, because they are reflective of what Rick's personality was: adventurous, humorous, courageous. A Million Ways to Die in the West. I mean, these are not Academy Award winners by any way, right? Porky's. Every James Bond movie, including the ones made by Timothy Dalton. Captain Ron and Stripes. Favorite movie scenes? Number one is actually a scene in Million Ways to Die in the West that I can't actually tell you about at this setting. In Porky's, do you remember Beulah Ballbricker, when she describes to the principal how she plans to identify a certain person? The campfire scene in Blazing Saddles, of course, and the family table scene in The Nutty Professor. I'm pretty sure the last two were probably the inspiration for his hot tub in a can gift. You already know about Rick's business exploits. Indeed, many of you attending here are actually still are part of one or more of them. In many ways, Rick was actually Michael Keaton in The Night Shift. He was the idea guy, right? And like Clark Griswold, who set expectations for Christmas that no family could achieve, Rick set an example for hard work, ingenuity, and humor that few can follow. He was an entrepreneur, no doubt. I think his unique attribute was to actually create companies and businesses to satisfy his personal needs, sometimes with a profit, right? Airspace Place was, for example, it was created because he didn't want to drive to Mogador to go for a plane ride, right? The Garage was born, his most recent adventure was born because he needed an office and a place to store all his toys, right? The thing about Rick is, and Kevin mentioned this, is that in everything he did, he involved his family members and his friends in a generous way. I mean, many of us in this room have benefited from wholesale purchase prices of many goods, electronics, TVs. I mean, who in here doesn't own a Swash 1000 bidet? I live in San Diego and I have 2 of them. He also gave us, many of us, our first jobs, or jobs in general. And so a sense of accomplishment, as well as some coin in our pocket, as Captain Ron would say. My wife Denise and her sister Danny, who's back there, worked at Pro Putt Miniature Golf Course when we were in high school. And I worked at that golf course and with my parents and my brother Tim, my friend Brian, who couldn't be here today. He also gave jobs to me, building decks with him and screened-in porches and Decks by Dexter. I was doing maintenance at the shopping center where the golf course was located, along with Brian. As a young lawyer, he actually gave me the opportunity to defend Rent-A-Nerd, the trademark, against some nasty person who was trying to steal it. In many ways, Rick really exemplifies what that great prophet Captain Ron said, which is the way it works shipboard is, you do your job, you do it good, you get a better job. That was Rick. He was also a movie maker, His love for movies started when he was a teenager. He took a movie-making class while at Kent State, and since then he's been a prolific scriptwriter and movie maker. It won't surprise me if the Sundance Festival probably doesn't ask us for some of his footage to actually show in a special tent. But most important to me, when I was growing up, when Rick would take me places, I mean, think about it. He was 8 years older. He's my bigger brother. Everything he did was so cool, right? So one time he asked my parents, said, "Can I take Tom to Kent State with me?" And my mom's like, "Whoa, Tommy, I don't know. You're only 12, 13 years old." Rick's like, "Don't worry, Mom. I got it. Everything's under control. We'll just ride the elevators, we'll just have fun. We'll walk around." Little did either of us know, I spent the weekend wearing long underwear, blue shorts, a mask and a snorkel, and flippers, running around Kent State campus. That was the weekend we filmed, and I became a superhero known as Snorkel Man. I think, are we going to show that outside by now? Oh, anyway. His more recent movies were not quite as lengthy. I mean, that was only 15 minutes, so seriously. His most recent movies were shorter, and many involved motorcycles or other trips that, we as family or as friends would take. One that he and his co-pilot, Pam, made recently was quite funny. It has not been broadly shown and probably shouldn't be broadly shown. They were visiting us in San Diego, and my daughter Kelsey just reminded me this of yesterday. They were visiting me in San Diego when we had a party, and while we were out entertaining the guests, Rick and Pam were making a movie in my bedroom closet, pretending to do the dirty deed. And then we went home and he showed it to everybody, including my mom. Growing up with this guy was fun. There's no doubt about it. He loved Stripes. Bill Murray said, "Who cried when Old Yeller died?" Well, I'm really not sure, but I've cried many times since Rick died. But not today. I'm going to tell you why. It's because of all of you. You verify what we all knew and believed in Rick. And for that, we celebrate his life, and I thank you for all coming and being a part of it.
So I missed the moment, but I said, who was up here before? 10-year-old? So anyway. All right. So Kevin, in his remarks, he mentioned how accessible Rick always was with his cell phone. And it's absolutely true. But I want to know, so he had so many numbers in his phone that he could receive calls from anybody at any time, and we all know that to be true. But has anybody ever been the recipient of a butt dial from Rick? A couple people here have? All right. Well, yeah, several of you. Well, my experience was I get a call, I see the incoming call, hey, it's Rick Briggs. Always a fun time to talk to Rick. I answer the phone, hey, buddy, how you doing, right? Hey, I usually addressed him as Captain Rick. Hey, Captain Rick, how you doing? And nothing. I hear some background noise in the background. I realize it's a butt dial. Now, most friends would respect his privacy and hang up the call. But this is Rick. This is going to be good. So what do? I put it on speaker and call people over, right? Hey, you're about ready to get entertained here. So I did that, and they were in the car. It was him and Pam, and I think the girls were there, driving down the road, and we had like 8 minutes of entertainment. Just snippets of that were like a cold weekend in Vermont, what they were doing to keep warm, and some other stuff like that, But very entertaining. So, but those of you that don't know me, my name is Darren, and I met Rick through aviation. him as a pilot and me as an air traffic controller. Rick was learning to fly in a small airport out in Wadsworth back in the mid-90s, and I was at my first assignment with the FAA, working the airspace at Akron-Canton Airport, and about 30 miles around there in the airspace there. And being a good student pilot, Rick always wanted to learn more about the other side of the microphone, because a lot of what pilots do, they talk on the radio, talk to air traffic control. So Rick came over for a tower tour one day to the Akron-Canton Tower in the radar room. And of course, being the pilot in the air traffic control facility at the time, I was designated as the tour guide for anybody that wanted to come through. So the first time I met Rick, he came through, introduced himself as a student pilot flying out of Wadsworth, and I said, "That's great, thanks for coming by, here's what we do." At the conclusion of that tour, he presented me with what's called a hillbilly unicom. And it was basically just a plastic megaphone that you yell through, right? And he thought that I would think that was funny, that the air traffic controllers could use a megaphone just to yell out instructions to pilots. And he also gave me, and you heard it referenced earlier tonight, a can of beans, which was the hillbilly hot tub. And my first thought was, as a stewardship of the government air safety, I gotta keep an eye on this guy. He's gonna go fly airplanes. He's gonna need a lot of oversight. So as he would progress in his advancement in aviation, I always made it a point to know what airplane he owned, right? And what the specific call sign of that aircraft is. And so when he's flying through my airspace and I'm working, I was gonna know that it's him. And we got to be good friends, and he got to know my voice. And frequently when I'm working, he'd come through my sector, I would say hi to him, "Hi, Captain Rick, how you doing?" He'd say, "Hi, Darren." We'd talk on the frequency, just a normal exchange. Professional pilots would end it right there. Just keep it brief, "How you doing?" Rick liked to talk, man. He's like, "Hey, that's my buddy, I'm the air traffic controller. I'm gonna have a conversation. Doesn't matter how busy I am, right? We wanna have a conversation." One of the more memorable conversations I had with him is we had the normal exchange, "How you doing, Rick? Hey, Darren," and so forth. And then he says, "You know what? I'm really glad you became an air traffic controller." He says this on the radio, on the frequency. I says, I took the bait. I should have been suspicious. I get that. I took the bait. I said, "Oh, that's very nice of you to say. Why would you say that today?" He says, "Because, Darren, you have a face that's only suitable for radio." And that was an example of leadership, because for the next 5 minutes, every other pilot took that opportunity to hold their professionalism in abeyance and just make comments and insults to me on the radio. And meanwhile, he's laughing, just flying along, and on. But all that aside, I'm honored that I was asked to give the toast to Rick, right? I've known him for 25 years, and again, through aviation, and I've been on motorcycle rides with him, and many plane trips, and jet skis, the whole bit. And one thing that's clear is we came in today, and you could see by the tables outside and the screens up here that Rick has the most documented life of anybody that we know. Pictures, videos, artifacts about him, created by him, and that's very well documented. But there are times when the camera's not rolling, and we have special memories of Rick, of those times that they weren't captured on video or by picture, and we just have those in our memory. And our memory fades over time, and there are other times where we just don't even recall the fun times we had with Rick, and usually drinking is involved, right, with those times. So I think we're gonna do the toast now. If you have a drink, I think it's probably appropriate to stand, if you wouldn't mind doing that, please, and grab your drink. So for all the times that we don't remember, with a friend that we will never forget, a brilliant mind, a beautiful soul, and I wish him peace on his journey. So let's take a drink to Rick, please. Thank you.
All right. Good afternoon, everybody. So this song that I'm playing is a song that Rick wrote back in the 80s, I guess. And I actually know Rick. I used to do the auto racing with him. Yeah, I know Rick from when I used to do auto racing with him, and I live in the area, and he opened up the lunch dock behind Senior TV, and I got to play there several times each summer. So I was asked to play this song that Rick wrote. You'll find that the chorus is not very complex, so as you hear it, please feel free to join in. Short, just a little too high, and the one glaring in the eye was staring over the edge of my house, and then I saw him like one-eyed tiger mouse. Was at the beach and I wore those pants, didn't know but I would get a glance. The girls walked by with giggles and stares, and there was Freddie pouring out of my shorts. One-eyed trouser mouse, one-eyed trouser mouse. Get back, you cute little thing, 'cause no one wants to see my ding-a-ling-a-ling. There I was in the dentist chair, he said, open up and hide in there. Don't see cavities on your teeth, but what's that crawling out from underneath? We're a sickle to the hero shop. We're a sickle to the root beer shop. Saw a poster and I climbed on top. She bought a ripper, filled it to the brim. She said, this one's for you, but what about him? One-eyed trouser mouse, one-eyed trouser mouse. Get back, you cute little thing, 'cause they don't want to see my ting-a-ling. I wore the shorts to the little farm, fired the pistol and I was gone. The judge said that's a modified race. Congratulations on first and second place. Set the bar string at the bar, putting man on a quarter cigar. Told the bartender to bring me a brew. He said, here's an extra for the both of you. One-eyed trouser mouse, one-eyed trouser mouse. Get back, you will come. They don't want to see my ting-a-ling. Well, I guess my shortcut just a little too sad. You would have made it easy when I had to be. Shame on me, goodbye folks, the cops are after me. One-eyed trouser mouse, one-eyed trouser mouse. Get back, you cute little thing, they don't want to see my ding-a-ling-a-ling. One-eyed trouser mouse, one-eyed trouser mouse. Get back, you cute little thing, 'cause they don't want to see my ding-a-ling. Thank you.
You know, working, Kevin said it, other people know it. Working for Rick at Stellar was an anomaly. There was really no place like it. As you said, if that was the first place you worked, you're screwed because you're not going to be able to survive anywhere else. But because most places are not like where, working for Rick is like. I can say this, if the walls could talk, especially at 815 East Talmadge, they'd call the HR department. I'm not kidding. Like, literally, we violated every code of conduct and ethic there is possible to do in a business. I mean, if you raise your hand if you've been to one of the Christmas parties, I'm just going to say that right then and there, you know. You're all sitting there going, can you really get away with this shit? But if you're going to stick around, though, and be here because we are not leaving, I suggest spending some time with Gary, with Paul, with Kevin, John Muniz, and hear a few stories because they are endless and they are amazing, and you will burst at the seams with laughter if you spend time around those guys telling the exploits of Rick at Stellar. But that was Rick. He was extremely hardworking and driven towards having a good time. He took amazing care of his employees. I mean, if you take a look at our bathrooms, the Schwash 1000, we have 3 of them. Who would have known having a good bathroom is that important to him? I mean, seriously, affinity for bidets, you saw in the video he gave out underwear. I have 4 or 5 pairs of boxers I got from the guy. I have no idea why. I've never talked about having underwear ever. But in all seriousness, Rick had a true passion for his work. Like most businesses, success does not come without trials and tribulations. I mean, there are stories, and prior to my time, maybe 4, 5, 6, 7, less than a dozen employees. Rick went on the road, and if he didn't close that deal, he did not make payroll. He had such an axe for sales. There's some binders I put out there that were his old sales Bibles, so to speak, that had the features and the solutions that we offered, and he would legitimately go through page by page with customers and tell the story about what we do and why we offer. And he did it with so excitement that those people would have paid double than what he sold it for, just because that's who he was. They bought because of Rick. He sold because he just drew people into him. And he did it so well with terrible clothes on the whole time. I kid you not. He would spend $1,000 on a bidet seat with 1 pie of toilet paper. Tell me why that makes sense. We'd have the most extravagant gag gifts that would ever be. Hey, go spend $500 to make this guy look like an asshole. And we wore Port Authority senior TV shirts. That guy was great. But to Rick, success was not measured monetarily. He believed if you took care of customers and employees, the rest took care of itself. And his exploits of generosity. I mean, I for one, and I pretty much gained everything I have. I say not everything. I didn't get taller, but I'm very fortunate to be where I'm at because of knowing Rick Briggs. I mean, I was hired at Senior TV because I put on my resume I knew Kevin Brainard. So, thank you, Kevin. But we built a very successful business. He built a very successful business. And he did that by creating a culture and a family. And his legacy will forever live on by the people that he empowered, that he trained, that he developed, and that he cared for at Senior TV and Stellar. So I thank him for that. I think we all thank him for that. And with that being said, please, by all means, come up here and share similar stories. I know Bob Play, you want to say a few words. Paul, anybody that wants to come up and speak, you will be timed. I don't know if I went over or not. Typically I do. But please come up and say a few words because there's so many good things we can share about Rick, and anybody that has the desire to do so, we welcome it. So I turn it over to those who want to come back. Oh, shit. Anybody but him.
It's cold in here. My name is Ryan Kane. I've had the privilege of being friends with Rick for about 14 years. I worked for him during that time as well. The last time that I spoke to Rick was, I sent him a picture of this outfit. We were about to head to Siesta Key, and he responded back, "My learned and loyal follower, you've done well." He called me after that, and we did some reminiscing, some talking about the future, and it'll be a good way to remember him for a long time. I think today we've heard a lot of iterations of how Rick was one of a kind. My friends used to joke with me, "Have fun today at work at the chocolate factory, tell Willy Wonka I said hello." And they really weren't far off. We had cookouts, we had parties, we had double elimination ping pong tournaments.
Still got eliminated.
I wasn't going to bring this up, but actually I won it. You name it, we had it. Rick believed in a work hard, but play harder mentality. He always rewarded hard work, but it was rarely with money. There were trips, experiences, et cetera, et cetera. He always wanted to put a spin on it and make it extra special, and I'll miss that. While thinking about what story I wanted to share today, it occurred to me how many lifelong relationships, how many once-in-a-lifetime experiences that I've had that are all either directly or indirectly tied to Rick. And I bet a lot of people here feel the same way. Some of the stories that I was thinking about are not appropriate to share. Some have been sworn to secrecy. One in particular was we were all in Nashville, and we were looking for a dinner spot, and we saw a spot, and there was a big line of people coming out the door. So we said, all right, it's probably a good spot. We roll in, and the hostess says, "Are you with the automotive industry show?" And we said, "Of course we are." So we got in line, we snuck in, we ate all their food, we drank all their drinks. Kevin and I got into a rather loud argument about foreign versus domestic vehicles that lasted for quite a while. And about a month later, we checked their website, and there was pictures of us partying on their website. So there was this shuffleboard table, and we probably played like 100 games of shuffleboard that night. We returned to the office after the trip, and within 2 weeks, we had a shuffleboard. At one point, we had a basketball hoop, a jukebox, cornhole boards, a shuffleboard, a ping pong table, a pool table, 2 full arcade games, and a full working gym. The chocolate factory, indeed. And a slot machine, yeah. So that is what I am taking from my time with Rick, that you don't ever have to grow up. You can work hard, you can create a life for yourself and for those that you love, and you can still have fun every step of the way. Not a bad legacy, if you ask me.
I don't think I was on the schedule, but I wanted to say a few words. Rick was my brother-in-law, married to my wife's sister, Diane. And I've known Rick from the mustache years, watched the children all grow up together with our boys, and he was just a terrific fellow to know. And when Kevin was up here, I thought I would hear the story about him going to Atlanta to a trade show. And as he was going down to the trade show, he saw this billboard. Vasectomies, painless. Now this is Rick. Rick says, "I need one of those." He had 2 beautiful daughters. I thought he would have a son, but no, he was done. The girls were it. So during this trade show, he makes an appointment with the doctor. And it was a painless procedure, right? Painless. How can that be painless? So anyway, he's working this trade show with an ice bag you know where, right? But seriously, I would have liked to have seen that, just to laugh at him, but anyway, I didn't have the opportunity. because I didn't work for him. And all you people who did work for Rick, I admire that, and I envy you, because I knew him as a relative and a friend, and just a terrific person. And to sum Rick up, I would just say that he was a marketing genius, truly a marketing genius. So to Rick.
Hi. I've been in sales with Rick for the last 25 years, and the one thing he taught me is your opening statement is what people are always going to remember. That is what they're going to keep. So I want to get this right off. I absolutely loved Rick Briggs. I wasn't going to do this. Okay. If any of you can't honestly say you love Rick, I'm sorry that you didn't know him, because really, that was the guy. Shit, I had all this stuff I was going to say, and it's just flooding. Everybody, how many people were the ones that said when they called Rick, he'd always pick up the phone? Shit, I got you beat by a mile. October 21st, 2004, for the first and only time in my life, I got arrested. I get hauled into jail. I get one phone call. I'm thinking, well, who's it going to be? The soon-to-be ex-wife? No, that's why I'm here. Parents? No. So who do I call? I call Rick. Rick shows up the next day at 5 o'clock, bails me out. Great guy. The first thing he says, I kid you not, is, well, I guess you're living with me now. And think about that. Most people are worried about losing their job, and Rick, for the next month, I'm not sure which one, but Allie, I think it was your bedroom I stayed in at the house in Cuyahoga for a month. And then I remember, because one time they were coming over and I slept by the pinball machine in the basement. Well, so, and you think, wow, Rick's a great guy. I call bullshit. So there's going to be a penalty. So then we get to the Christmas party that year. And I show up about an hour early, and, and I'm also coming from Rick's house. And he goes, oh, yeah. He goes, I got your outfit. And I have a black and white striped prison uniform. And how many people were employed? I don't know if anybody even here was there then, but, okay. And so I have to get up and dance in front of the whole place to Jailhouse Rock. No. And you think, oh, that's penalty. Oh, no, child's play. Because before it's done, and Paul, where's Paul? Paul was there. Remember? I had to drop those things to show the boxers that he got that went along with the outfit. So, Rick, the thing about Rick is, if you worked for Rick, that's a lie, because you've never worked a day in your life. Really, it was an adventure from start to finish. I know we've only got a couple of minutes, but Paul and I could tell you stories, Kevin, everybody, for hours about Rick. And he's the only guy I know that literally got me escorted by security out of Independence Hall in Philadelphia and out of the Alamo in San Antonio, thanks to Rick. Oh, yeah, no. We were at the Alamo real quick in San Antonio. Here's one, because most of them I'd have to ask Allie and Amy to leave for the story, so I'll do the one that we can. And we're in the Alamo, and there's a docent there who's leading her tours. Pretty impressive, I know the word docent. But leading the tours there in the Alamo, and she's got a group of seniors, fittingly, she's taken through, and she's telling where Santa Anna's men came up and how they're attacking. And Rick, being the smart ass he was, goes, well, why didn't they just take up positions in the San Antonio Hotel up here on the roof so they could shoot them? And this lady, and meanwhile, you've got 50 seniors who are wetting their depends, and they're all sitting there peeing their pants, and this lady looks up and she goes, oh, because they didn't have that hotel. I'd like you gentlemen to just leave right now. And so, but that was always Rick's way. He would do what seemed like the most conniving things with love in his heart, because all he wanted to do is make a bunch of seniors who were bored laugh. But so and I know, like I said, it probably makes no sense what I'm saying up here, but the biggest thing is, oh my God, I love Rick Briggs. And if any of you can't say that, you didn't know the man. But Rick, the other thing was where I met Rick was when he came out to take flying lessons. And I'll never forget when he came out, the first thing I thought was, oh shit, he looked like Elmer Fudd. And you know, you've seen the hat he always wore with the flaps that came down. He comes out standing with that, and he's got that, and he looks like Opie Taylor. I mean, and that's why I said he looked like Opie Taylor and Elmer Fudd had a love child. And then the first thing he proceeds to tell me is I get motion sickness. And it just kind of went a little bit sideways from there. But, I mean, and like I said, little did I know that was the start of the guy that influenced my life. I love my father, but even influenced me more than my own father. I mean, Rick was literally, although he was only a couple years older, like a father to me. And absolutely one of the greatest people I ever met in my life.
For the tall guys in the room. You know, never in a million years would I have thought that I'd have to do this today. By the way, my name is Paul Kennard, for those of you who do not know me. I'm Rick's favorite black friend. Look around the room and you'll know I'm serious. I'm the guy that brought color to the room and the company. Now, all jokes aside, Rick, oh God, you know, so over 20 years of relationship, I think, I don't know who it was because everything is blending together. And people who in this room that know me that I don't get nervous talking to people at all. But it was nervous because how do you talk about somebody that you spent over 20 years learning from, building with, growing with, and get all of that into what they meant to you in 5 minutes or less? How do you do that? Rick, so I'll talk about you know, some of the things that he did for me. He took a chance on a guy, again, you know, where I come from, you know, opportunities to work for a company, be a part of a company, build something with somebody where it impacts thousands and thousands and thousands of people. And I think Gary can say this, is that I don't think we weren't thinking about the impact of what we were doing and how that would impact the senior living industry as a whole and seniors as a whole when we started doing this. But now, 20 plus years later, you know, I look back and you know, things that he taught us on how to do. I think my first week, here was the first week I started doing business with Rick Briggs. He said, hey, yeah, you can come in. He negotiated this deal with me. He said, you don't have to be an employee, and we don't have to talk about that, but he says, we can do this deal and all this good stuff. I'm like, man, this dude, either he's really smart or he's really crazy. He's gonna let me get away with this. So he puts me in this office space in the back, it's in the old office building, and I'm back with the receptionist at the time, who happens to be, I didn't know this at the time, she felt comfortable enough to tell me that within a few hours of me being there, she was a swinger. And she had just got back from Jamaica on a swing trip. And so I started looking around, and I'm like trying to look for, what's the guy's name, Alan Fun? I'm trying to think, am I being, or Ashton Kutcher, am I being punked right now? What is this? What's going on here? So, you know, just that's the kind of guy Rick was. He put me in a room, and he sat there and he said, well, figure it out. And he put me in a room with somebody that was supposed to train me that didn't train me to do anything, actually, for weeks. And I started writing stuff out, and I would take it to him because I wanted validation of his approval. So I would go in his office, I would type this stuff up, I'd hand it to him, and he'd look, and he had this pen at the time on his desk, a silver pen with these two little balls of steel on it. He would pull that pen out, and he'd cross stuff out on the stuff that I typed up, and he said, cut the flowery bullshit. All this that's what he was critiquing me at the time. So when I finally got smart, and I said, okay, I'm going to type this stuff up, but I'm not going to show it to him. So I typed it up. I walked in his office. I said, hey, I wrote this quote for this big opportunity in New York, but you're not going to see it. I took it, and I ripped it up, and I never showed him anything else again, and success started happening after that. But again, the guy he gave you the freedom to grow, learn from what he showed by example, but then grow from that. And I'm going to share a real quick story because everybody talked about these crazy things that they did with him. Gary and I we could write a book literally on the things. But the first trade show I did with Rick was in Miami. I think it was like 2001 maybe. He made us wear these Hawaiian shirts you're wearing tonight, by the way. Gary and I were pioneers of this shit. You have no idea. We wore these shirts for 3 days. As a matter of fact, we only had one shirt, and we had to wear these stinking shirts 3 days in a row. And we saw these ladies of the night walking down the street, and they were like, we know you guys. You wore those same shirts the other day. The last thing I'll say about that same trip is Rick, as Kevin so eloquently spoke about, everything was an experience. You had to get out and experience the town you were in. So we were in Miami. We start walking, and we walk up on this place called Madonna. And he's like, oh, let's go in there and see what it's all about. So we walk in Madonna. Madonna happens to be a strip club in Miami. We didn't know this at the time. Right. So we sit out, and we happened to be there on 2 for a night. Go figure, right? So we sit down, and this lady comes up, and she's talking, and she's like, yeah, it's 2 for 1. And we said, do you guys want to go upstairs to a private area? And we're looking at each other like, yeah, okay, let's go upstairs. So it's clean, by the way. If this is G-rated, by the way. I won't tell it. So we go upstairs, and this lady, she starts, doing all this fancy stuff with her legs and feet and all this other kind of stuff. And she's like, oh, I can make you so excited with my knee. And Rick looked at me and I said, the only way you're going to make me excited is if you have a hole in your knee. That was it. Thank you all for coming. Good night and God bless.
Pretty good, Paul. Tough act to follow. My name's Larry Thompson. Rick was one of my best friends. I wasn't going to speak tonight because I didn't think I could maintain my composure. But then I heard that it was limited to 5 minutes, and I thought, oh, wow, I'm definitely not going to speak. But then I was having a beer with my friends the other night, and they asked me if I was going to speak, and I said, no, I don't think I am for those reasons. And they said, well, write it down. Make it, 4 or 5 minutes, and if you get emotional, just stop, take a breath or two and read it. So that's what I did. Okay, so I kind of did the chicken way out, but this way I can get through it because Rick was a very good friend. I met Rick in church about 25 years ago. I was a Sunday school teacher, and I had both Amy and Allie in my Sunday school class. I soon learned that Rick was a pilot, a scuba diver, skier, motorcycle rider, racing enthusiast, businessman, and many, many other things. We certainly had a lot in common, and it didn't take long for us to develop a lasting friendship. As the years ticked by, Rick wanted to get me back into flying. I'm a pilot from a long, long time ago, and I wanted to get him back into motorcycle riding. So on the flying side, and with the purpose of getting me back into flying, Rick and I purchased a Romanian IAR 823 military warbird that we completely overhauled, including a really cool camouflage paint job. There are some pictures around here of that if you can find it. Of course, in typical Rick fashion, he created a company called Transylvania Airways. And our motto was, we suck. All right. It was painted on both sides of the airplane, okay? And yes, it included a picture of a beautiful, scantily clad, well-endowed blonde, okay, and she had vampire teeth. In addition, he made us both official-looking military flight suits, which are around here somewhere, and captain shirts, which I'm wearing here tonight. And the flight suits were Comrade, Briggsky and Tomsky, okay? And the same on the captain shirts, as you can see. Comrade, this one's Captain Tomsky. So I'm wearing that shirt tonight, and I think his is around here somewhere tonight as well. What an imagination Rick had. We had a lot of fun flying around at the local airports with our outfits on, and the looks that we got were worth all the efforts that we put into the project. Rick loved the looks on people's faces. He always did. On the motorcycle side, I had a small Suzuki street bike and decided to purchase a Harley-Davidson V-Rod. It was very sporty and fast, but not a two-person machine, nor was the Suzuki. To get Rick back into motorcycle riding, a few years later, I invited him and Pam to join me and Arlene on a memorial motorcycle ride for a young serviceman from Talmadge that was killed in Afghanistan. I loaned Rick my Suzuki. It was a great ride, and he was hooked again. Soon thereafter, he bought a motorcycle. The next thing I knew, Rick was planning a motorcycle adventure, with our significant others, to Colorado. We soon flew to Denver, rented huge Harley-Davidson motorcycles that we both were afraid to ride. And of course, we didn't tell the girls that. The trip was fantastic, riding the mountains for 3 days, but the trip wasn't long enough. When we returned home, both Arlene and Pam convinced Rick and I that we had to buy big Harley-Davidson motorcycles with these queen seats on the back if we ever wanted them to ride with us again. Of course, we complied, and more times than we both would like to admit. The next several years included many motorcycle trips, including 3 out west again. Tom was in on one of those down the coastline of Florida, 2 in Canada, and several in Ohio, Pennsylvania, New York, Virginia, West Virginia. It also included many flying destinations such as Mackinac Island, Fun and Sun, and Key West, and many, many more. All of these trips have left me with wonderful, long-lasting memories. This is why I wrote it down. I can't begin to tell you how close Rick and I were. We had so much in common and did so many things together that it is impossible to even list them all or even speak for hours and hours. Rick loved life, and he lived it to the fullest. Country western singer, Tim McGraw sings a song titled, "Live Like You Were Dying." In the song, he sings, "Someday I hope you get the chance to live like you were dying." This is the way that Rick lived his life, and we all should listen and learn from his example. If you get a chance sometime, okay, pull up that song, listen to it, get yourself off in a closed room, maybe all by yourself, listen to that song and the lyrics, and I guarantee you, okay, you'll have a big smile on your face before that song is over. I know that we are all missing and hurting from Rick's loss. I am sure that he has touched the lives of every one of us in this room tonight, and even many, many more. However, we are all so fortunate to have had Rick in our lives, even if it wasn't long enough. Rick believed, as I do, that it is way better to have loved and lost than to have never loved, to dance than to have never danced. He believed that you cannot stop living for fear of dying, and he wanted all of us to have a happy and full life. That was his motto, his goal, and he was exceedingly doing that. We are all so fortunate to have had Rick in our lives. I know we did a toast earlier, but I'm going to do another one. I'd like you to just stay seated, raise your glasses. To Rick Briggs. All right. Thank you for being a great son, brother, husband, father, grandfather, friend, employer, and everything else that you have been to all of us. Although you are not here in person with us tonight, Rick, we know that you are here with us in spirit and will be forever in our hearts and in our minds. Here's to you, Rick. So long for now.
Good evening, everyone. And I thank especially the family and all the friends and associates of Rick give me the opportunity to speak about him this evening. My wife and I are very, very thankful that we were allowed to come and have me say a few things about Rick. I'm the former CEO and president of Blondertongue Laboratories, and Rick and I have been brainstorming products and solutions for the things that he needed since the early 90s. I'm a present board of director member, and I was the one who recommended Rick to our board, and absolutely he was the most highly contributable person on the board. In the short time that he was a board member, a little over a year, it gave us so much guidance about the market and the products. And I apologize for my nervousness in front of you this evening. I'm sure he would not have been if it was the other way around. As Kevin Brainard said, what kind of boss he was. And I say, what kind of a customer he was, and an associate he was. Both Rick and I were Cessna 210 pilots, owners, and operators. So we shared a lot of aviation commonalities and likes about that particular field of interest. But he was into so many things, not just aviation. And learning about all of those things this evening has just been so instructive and inspirational for me. Looking at the word cloud, I have written down some words, and a lot of them match what's on there. I'm going to read my list. These match what's on the list. Fun, the largest type size on the list. Kind, generous, driven, a visionary, creative, innovative, and forgiving. However, I have a slightly different list in addition to those. In business and life, he was an idea person, an explorer of new ideas, unlimited courage, unafraid, determined, persistent, relentless, iterative, even to the bizarre. Because for an idea guy, if you don't explore all the bizarre things and have the courage to offer all of your ideas, then you're not going to get to the best ideas. And he never was afraid to take a chance and think out of the box. And so, just like in baseball, if you hit 400, like Ted Williams, you win batting title every time. But in an idea guy's life, if you don't offer those 10 ideas, you don't have an opportunity to throw the 6 in the trash can that didn't work, but the 4, execute on the 4 that might. He was honest and beyond honest. Candid, which means brutally honest, which winds up being incisive. So he could take your clothes off you with a scalpel, and you didn't even know he had done that until you reflected on it later and said, holy crap, I better listen to this guy. Open, transparent, strategic, tactical, loyal, and loyalty, trustworthy and trusting. The most responsive person I ever knew, as Kevin said. He would take my call even if he was in the middle of something with Kevin. Just unbelievable responsiveness. Non-stop. Non-stop to all of those things that I've already mentioned. Lifelong. And the alliterative. Lifelong. Loyalty. Concise. And back to meaning concise, he helped us name our most successful product lines. Clearview. What does that import? What does that impart? Better pictures than anyone else in the market that he served. Aircaster. What does that mean? In an instant, you know something that's signals over the air are being recast and resent. Part of the marketing genius that was mentioned earlier. And Blonder Tongue benefited greatly from those things. Well, off the serious topics. And I'm glad I got through that without having to stop and pause too many times. He was humorous and fearless. In fact, you can't be humorous without being fearless. He was a spoofer and a gagmeister, par excellence. Everyone has been spoofed by him. And I have two stories, and then I'll step down. On the list of the word cloud, there's an expression, oh my gosh, he did not just say that. Okay, so the first story is about a person who's now moved on to a very large prospective customer. In fact, the largest CATV customer opportunity on the planet. So without mentioning any names. Now, this person got the opportunity to take a senior director position from one of our larger customers on the East Coast, Altice, and moved from New Jersey, where we were helping him with our products to make a name for himself at Altice, and he moved on to this company that will remain nameless, but in Seattle. And he's an African-American gentleman, and much to Paul's chagrins, recently he turned into Rick's best African-American friend, Paul.
His second best African-American friend. Thank you, Bob. Don't play with me.
Well, you know, Rick was never serious. And so I'm just a step behind him. But I'm here. So you know it's not serious. Okay, so one of oh my gosh, he did not just say that. Rick was helping us entertain because he knows the area. This gentleman wants to move to Florida eventually, so he's going to give him a tour. So he comes to Florida, and he says, we're going to take a boober Everybody know how many people know what a boober is? By show of hands. Well, I know there's one person who actually knows what a boober is. I know my wife knows what a boober is. But if nobody else knows what a boober is, it's spelled with a U and not with two O's. So a boober is a boat Uber, where Rick and Pam were going to pick us up pick up this gentleman near the airport at a bar at the on the dock there, and then gave us a fantastic tour of the Intracoastal. Is that right, Pam? The Intracoastal. Regardless, a beautiful day, and then back to Rick and Pam's house. But when we first met them, I wasn't paying attention to Rick's introduction to this gentleman and his wife, and because, as my wife calls me, Captain Oblivious, I just wasn't paying attention at that moment. But Rick and I had been brainstorming about how to help this gentleman at his new career for months. And, yes? Okay, he says I'm past my 5-minute warning. Okay, so, does that mean I got 1 more minute? Or no? 1. Okay, so when we first met them, allegedly this gentleman says that Rick comes up to him, and of course we've been talking about him in the new job because of diversity and so on and so forth. Rick knows that he's African American, but he says to him and his wife, "Oh my gosh, I didn't know you were black." And he leaves it there. So, regardless, I didn't get the spoof until 2 days ago when the gentleman told me I had permission to tell that story here. I loved Rick Briggs, and thank you for letting me talk beyond my 5 minutes.
Thank you, Bob. I loved Rick Briggs as well, and I know Rick Briggs well enough to know that we should be partying. What are we doing? This man's estate is paying for an open bar, and we are sitting in here wasting an opportunity. Can we please have a good time in Rick's name? Let's mingle. You've heard everybody talk. There's nothing left that needs said about this man. It's published on LifeWeb. We're going to regurgitate stories for the rest of our lives. It's time to have a good time. Let's do it.
He invited me to his Christmas party, and we were supposed to dress up. Well, then he sent out a second memo, which I missed, that they weren't going to dress up. So I was the only one that showed up in an elf outfit at the Christmas party. But it worked out okay. It was still fun. But that was my claim to fame.
A little trip that Rick and I had planned that unfortunately we won't be going on, but he was talking to me one day, and at the time Rick still had a Harley Davidson, and then he's got his BMW motorcycles. Well, I've got some Harleys, and I had a couple BMWs also, and so he was talking, and he said, "Hey, you ever think about riding that bike in really cold weather?" And I said, "Yeah, I could probably do that." And he said, "Would you consider riding down to Florida with me in the wintertime?" And I said, "Yeah, I think I could do that." And he was all excited about it because he said, he goes, "I know a lot of guys that ride and everything, but he said, I never knew anybody who had the right bike." And he said, was crazy enough to do it. And, so I said, "Well, yeah, I'll do it with you, Rick." So then he decided that we would start a motorcycle club, and he had a great name for it. He said, "We will call it the Frozen Nuts." And I will leave it up to your imagination as to what the nuts were. So anyway, that was a plan that we had. Now I've come to find out that Rick had also designed a logo, which Larry Thompson told me he had been working on. Well, I haven't seen it yet, but would have been a good time, but I'm still going to think of Rick, and if I can, I'm going to get maybe Larry and some of the guys to do something really crazy and maybe ride to Alaska. But I loved Rick, and I'm going to miss him dearly, but I'll think of him every day.
Hey everyone, awesome party for an awesome man. He will be missed deeply, and I'm sorry for your loss.
Hey everyone, Nick. This has been an absolutely incredible memorial and celebration of your life, Rick. You are loved, you are missed, and it's funny story is that we both called the doctor off a billboard for our vasectomy. The real punchline here is he was the same one that you went to, and he remembered you. So congratulations on making an impact on a bald doctor. So thank you very much, and Rick, I love you. I'm gonna miss you. I miss you already. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Kathy. Rick was a dear friend of mine, as you know. And if I would have to share, I would say just incredible memories, incredible fun, the parties, obviously, the Christmas parties, but certainly the memories of the connections that preceded me through my career, that became friendships and just connections with Rick that evolved from Zach, who was an employee of Rick's, to James, who was a contractor of Rick's, to my second grade best friend, whose husband became a friend of Rick's, to just crazy connections with, I can't even go, but I love you guys, I love Rick, and I'm sorry for your loss, but I'm joyful for what I have been able to spend with him and the memories he's given me. So thank you. I love Rick. I love all of you. Thank you.
So I'll tell you, it's interesting that I just happened to stop here because Rick made this, because I asked him if he would come to Tucson or to Phoenix, Arizona to talk to a group about his career and how the work we did to prepare his business. And in Rick Briggs fashion, it became the most important thing in his life until it was done. And as a result, this is one of the things he did. He put together a lifeline of all the businesses that led up to the one that we worked on and sold together. And that leads me to my point about two things I want to say about Rick Briggs that I said many times when he was here, is that if you ask him to do something, it became the most important thing in his life, at least you would think it was the most important thing in his life, until it was done. He was on it every minute, all day, until it was done. That's how he did it. If you ask him to do something, he said yes, he did it, and he did it seriously. I'll tell you something else, and a quick joke. You know, I walked into the garage the other day, and he's burst out laughing. I hear him, I go in his office, and he's watching the British news on Joe Biden farting in front of the royal family, thinking that was the funniest thing ever, and he keeps showing it over and over, laughing out loud by himself. But there was a really serious note. You guys know that I worked with him for years to help him get Senior TV ready for sale. And I will tell you, all of you knew about it and for just a few moments, and he and I had been working on it for years. And it was one of the most complex deals I ever worked on because of all of you. Everyone and everybody connected had to be considered. And when we put that business together in order for him to sell it, all of you made it a very, very complex deal, and I'm glad it worked out great for all of you. Thanks. I'm going to miss him.
Mr. Briggs, Rick Briggs, A lot of things have been said about him. I feel everything that everybody said. I've known him for 7.5 two short years. And I know that I'll miss him as much as everybody else. You know, generous, one of a kind. Probably never meet another guy like him. So it's a pleasure knowing him, and I love him, and hope to stay in touch with the whole family.
All of the restroom stalls are equipped with the Brondell Swash 1000 electronic bidet toilet seat. And hey, I even have my pants on. And no office is complete without a working shoe phone. Hello, Agent 99, please meet me under the cone of silence. Let's go talk to the chief. The cone of silence is used for top secret conversations. We don't need encryption, NDAs, and so forth. We have everything we need. Mark, what do you think about all this?
I think this is really great.
Hey, can't you see I'm working?